It says live recording.
Okay, let's see here.
I am also recording on my side because that's
Awesome.
just how it works.
Yep. Oh, perfect. All right, I'm refreshing.
It says it's uploading.
There it is.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I am. It says we're live. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's see.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Here we
Oh,
are.
God.
Yay!
Yay!
We can
Okay.
see ourselves. I mean, there is a lag, so I got the chat up. All right. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is D Real, the Real Catalyst. I am here with truly the Cosmic Priestess, Kiana. Thank you for being here. We are both so grateful that you are here. So welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, and you need screen sharing permission. It says I will give it to you just in case you.
Oh,
Open
okay.
your
I shouldn't need it,
settings.
but
Oh, well, I can bring stuff up for you.
Otositri
Anyway, welcome everyone. This is a live recording, live stream on the Catalyst Energies channel here on YouTube.
yes.
It's blocking me. Get out of the way. There we go. And we are ironing out the bugs. I haven't been live in a really long time, and I'm using new software, so bear with us here.
It is all good.
Yes.
We got this.
This is the 2025 Year of the Snake, a collaboration of Sacred Sound offered by Kiana, the Cosmic Priestess, and Divine Astrology by myself here at Catalyst Energies. So, Kiana, how are you feeling here?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy connected to this beautiful serpent energy. As you know, we're now in the Lunar New Year, in this energy of shifting into this new paradigm, and I can feel it even coming into this. And so I'm just really excited, really grateful to be able to share this medicine, share what comes through, and to have the opportunity to share this sacred sound so that we can all be supported in being able to really use these energies to our benefit. So just anchoring into that in this moment at the Osum.
That's a good reminder of being present in this moment, because that is going to be the key, I think, for the year ahead and certainly over the next 2 weeks. So, where do you think we should start with all of this here today? Got some astrology, got some Chinese medicine theory, since we're talking about Chinese astrology, of course, the sacred sound that you offer. I don't know. I thought maybe we were kind of talking about the different cultural connections to the serpent and what it represents spiritually, symbolically, archetypally. I don't know. I think that's a great place to start here.
Absolutely.
To get this conversation going. So,
yes.
What would you had brought up earlier when we were talking before we went live, we were talking about from the Egyptian perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the serpent energy related to Sekhmet. So what do you have so far that you'd like to share about that energy? Because I thought that really started to bring forward a lot in terms of what to expect with the year ahead. Because the snake energy is very subtle, but it's very powerful. And just having an understanding from different cultural perspectives about the serpent, I think, is a great place to start in terms of wrapping ourselves around, just like a coiled snake. Look at that, wrapping ourselves around.
So it's really interesting because in this journey, right, we're constantly learning, we're constantly discovering new information to help support us upon our pathway. And I just find it so interesting, the power of the serpent, right? And the thing is, I know that many of us can get a little intimidated by that energy. Because there are so many projections when it comes to the snake, the serpent, right? Because the serpent is known to be wise, to hold the celestial cosmic wisdom. And there's such an importance surrounding allowing yourself to come into a deeper awareness and relationship thereof, because the serpent embodies such a beautiful energy of the divine feminine aspect of source.
Absolutely.
Bakayito sotositria shakayetum bakayithria sanaye. And so in talking about like the Egyptian connection, that frequency in particular, connecting with Wajet, which who is like the, I guess you could say, embodiment of the medicine of the cobra, right? It's all about abundant life, new discoveries, new possibilities, this process of really beginning to step into a rebirth through shedding, right? There's this shedding that happens. And the Egyptians believed that through this shedding that truly the serpent never ages, right? It just constantly goes through this process of rejuvenation, rebirth. Thank you, Spirit. Y'all, you'll have to excuse me. I speak a lot in my light language when I am channeling information. Absolutely. And sharing information. It helps to keep the frequency high and my channel clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what's interesting is that we're also seated in this particular Lunar New Year, we're seated in the energy of the wood snake. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that the snake itself, that energy, is very much connected to primal fire. And you can compare it to that of Kundalini, literally like Wajet, this embodiment of the powerful serpent medicine is connected to the primal fire goddess energy. So it's very interesting that with us being in the year of the wood snake, we are learning how to anchor that power within us and to use it to alchemize in a very grounded way. It's interesting because when you think fire and earth, the elements don't necessarily seem cohesive, but I feel like there is a lesson to be learned here about becoming more centered and grounded in your own personal power of creation and really anchoring into the wisdom that is available to you. Because one thing that the Egyptians don't shy away from is just how powerful this energy of the cobra is. And it's really up to us as individuals how we use the wisdom that is given to us, how we use the power that is inherently within us. And literally, when you think of the energy of the snake, when you think of the Kundalini, when you think of the chakra system, the way the energy moves up from the root chakra out through the crown, this grounded connection with the earth, and life force energy that moves up through the earth, through all of our chakras and out to source. We are literally that bridge. The serpent is literally a representation of that bridge between us, between the earth and the heavens. And so it is really this powerful symbology that if we allow ourselves to tune into, we can really empower ourselves in our own ability to create the reality that it is that we desire to create. And it's interesting because with the picture that you have there, like with the Sekhmet energy, it's powerful because she does have the crown with the cobra upon her crown. And I feel that it is like so connected to the fact that we have access to this higher wisdom. We have access to this power. It is within us. The energy of Sekhmet is also connected to the alchemy of fire as well. Oftentimes there is this process that you can undergo of really surrendering and reverence and offering, surrendering your fear, right? Surrendering the anger, all of these feelings that you feel, that may in some ways be interfering with the divine flow of life force through you. You can surrender these things to Sekhmet's fire. You can surrender these things to the fire of the serpent. Allow it to be alchemized so that you can anchor into your power and your truth. It's really a beautiful thing of being able to release this heaviness, being able to shed what is not of you so that you can stand in all that you are. And so I love it.
I love it too. Wow, you pretty much encompassed what basically the same read that I got for this entire year, honestly. So yeah, so we're done now. We can go home, and Kiana has dropped. She's dropped the truth.
No.
And I mean that though. I felt that was just such a beautiful introduction to what we're going to talk about, and break it down into different, I guess, different vectors, right? The astrology area, if you're into more of the health and wellness aspect. Some of the things you brought up about the fire elements and the earth elements and the way they all correspond and interact with each other. It's going to be really interesting when I bring up the 5-element a chart and look at how all of these organ systems actually interact with each other, the fire and the earth element and the wood element. So I feel like that the year of the dragon, which was 2024, was such a purifying experience. So I'm going to bring up a different goddess here as I'm talking about this.
Okay.
Ishel, right? Ishel is the Mayan goddess of medicine and midwifery and just the divine feminine as well. And you can see that she has this coiled but also restrained serpent on her head. I think that's very symbolic in itself. There's a control that this being has over this energy in order to maintain the potency of it for when it's needed, right? Because
absolutely,
it's very easy for this energy to be destructive, right? And in a more subtle way than the year of the dragon, which was very masculine. It was yang energy, and truly was very destructive. I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience how destructive it really was, especially to dragon, if you have Draco starseed connections, or if you have strong dragon connections, dragon bloodline connections, either spiritually or in your actual familial bloodline. It was brutal because there was nothing really left untouched over the last year. It was just the purifying aspect of fire, and it was the wood dragon. So it was definitely the yang energy and that which breaks everything down. And now we're here at the year of the snake, which is the yin energy, still the wood energy. So still this freshness and this newness, and it's like the skin has already been shed, as we talked about, and now there's this brand new raw skin that hasn't been conditioned yet by anything, experiences. We're in brand new territory here, but there is such a need for the mastery of this energy over the weeks to come, and certainly throughout this year, that's going to determine, the quality and the nature of what it is we do manifest. Because I feel like the manifestation capacity is going to be heightened for everyone, regardless if you're aware or you have what your intention is. And it's going to be that much more important that we are very disciplined and intentional and really, enact these detox protocols. Well, if you haven't done it already, I mean, you got about 2 weeks to really pull it together, and get something on, get something that you're committed to doing. I know for me personally, at Sagittarius season, for that full moon, it was, and some of you might remember this, that I had said it is time to do the detox because Ophiuchus was involved in that full moon, right? The snake bearer, the healer that handled the snakes, the healer that was, and this goes to your imagery about the skin shedding and how it's eternal. It's almost like the Ouroboros, but Asclepius or Ophiuchus, he conquered death through his ability to master the art of healing, right? And, the gods of Olympus couldn't have that, right? Especially Hades. He's like, you're going to put me out of a job here if you really are able to do this. And so they had to take him out. But they're like, but you were a really cool human, so we'll give you your own constellation, right? But that energy was very present in November into December, and it was like, it's time to do the things like we talked about earlier, to clear the pathways, because
Yes.
if you are full, if you are, full of toxins, literally, if you are spiritually just clogged up, and you have Kundalini moving, it is a
Yeah.
very difficult experience. This is why when people go do things like ayahuasca ceremonies or any type of natural hallucinogenic kind of even a shamanic journey that's not drug related, if you haven't done the proper purification, when those channels open and the Kundalini, which is more potent than your standard like chi flow, right? The Kundalini
Yes.
is the next level. It is the thing that modulates, I guess you could say, your frequency, the Kundalini moving through, which is represented by the serpent. And there's spontaneous healing. There's incredible creative potential. There is and there's real manifestation. I mean, the most obvious example we have of this in a biological sense is the creation of life. This
Yes.
is the Kundalini energy in action through sexual union and the creation of life. So it is, but that has to be done responsibly, has to be done with a sense of intention and mastery, and I think we've been prepared to this point, and now it's time. The gates are opening, the floodgates are opening, and
Yes.
it's happening, especially with Uranus stationing direct at this Aquarius new moon. So we're in the new moon to the full moon is the year of the snake. So this 2 weeks is very potent in terms of how the whole year is going to go. So I know I am here with you, and I have a strong connection to Ishel in terms of my own shamanic work and my own kind of my power animals, the entourage
Yes.
of power animals, and I have this snake in the same position. So I mean, I know that that's part of my role in the healing arts as well. It's like I've been tasked with that, and that's what I do, on the daily. I'm in those trenches right now, working with people in their physicality and their energy. So, but that also, again, that takes discipline. That takes that takes a certain amount of skill. So, whoo-wee. And is there anything else about Sekhmet that you would want to offer before we move on from this goddess energy related to the year of the snake? Because it is a yin energy. It is a representative of the creative energy of the feminine. So
it's very interesting because like we are in that yin energy, right? And the interesting thing about Sekhmet is that she brings forth this warrior energy, but it's very much this energy of the spiritual warrior. And I feel as though there are many of us in the collective who are really beginning to feel that call on our hearts to finally begin to move forward. And so I've been being called to work with her more closely. And while I'm still early on in my journey with her, I can see the power and the alchemy that she holds, even through the frequency of fire and also through the frequency of that serpent medicine. I would say that there's a parallel here of the timing, even with the year of the snake and me feeling this call, because I feel as though, her as an energy, you don't even have to view her as being necessarily an entity, but even just the energy of her is really calling for us to be in a place of surrendering our fear, surrendering the anger, surrendering the frustration, surrendering these energies and allowing them to be alchemized by fire and really anchoring into it. Because when you think also about the energy of the snake, again, like we've been talking about with the Kundalini, it is this energy of fire. And for me, fire has always very much been representative of life force. It always has been very much representative of the spirit fire. So I feel like, you know, we also moving into this time have this beautiful opportunity to surrender these energies of fear so that they can be alchemized and rechanneled through us as divine power. And like I feel that deeply in my heart, and I feel that Sekhmet really holds that space, because not only does she bring forth this spiritual warrior energy, but she also brings forth this divine power as the healer.
Yes, and there has to be there does have to be the pulling away or the burning away of that which is, you know, either the byproduct or is not serving in its capacity anymore, which is what I'm familiar with Sekhmet. She was the destroyer, you know, for Ra, right? And so and then she had to be subdued, because she went on a rampage when she started to get, and that's like, you know, the fire, if it's raging, right? That's what can happen. And I think that's, you know, it's time to temper. That was the year of the dragon, and it's time for us to temper that fire down to the coals, right? So that we can actually do real transformation, real alchemy, because that's where the real catalyst energy is the coal fire, right? So I learned a lot about fire with my wood stove, right? It's a whole learning curve. So I have this chart up because this is a great segue, I think, into what we're talking about, the way in 5-element theory, since we are talking about Chinese astrology in the year of the snake. And by the way, I will say that when we kind of transition more into the astrological conversation, that the Chinese astrology system does have 12 animals, much like Western astrology has 12 houses. And they correspond to all of the houses. And the year of the snake is the 6th out of 12. And the 6th house is the Virgo house. It is the house where things come to fruition, right?
Yes.
When the passion of the 5th house is put into functionality and it bears fruit. And there's something that really sticking with me about this year, and how it's about regulating that energy, right? That Kundalini energy can be utilized for incredible creative, whatever it is, right? Actually bringing it into form. But it has to be regulated. It has to be, you know, in its full potency, just like Ishel, right? When it's coiled and bound on her head, right? You can't be just like flailing around or, you know, like striking constantly. That time is over. And there's a certain like sense of subtlety and mystery and kind of like, I don't know, the best case scenario of like the standard snake archetype of being kind of like, I don't want to say underhanded, but you know what I mean? Just kind of like, you know, just slithering around things and being low to the ground, and really just your strength comes from your subtlety, right? And your ability to kind of blend in, and that feels like a really important part of like, it's the day in, day out minutia of the 6th house that I think is going to lead to success. So patience, discipline, that kind of stuff. So, but what I will say here is that the wood energy in Chinese medicine, 5-element theory, and of course, if you're watching this, you may be a practitioner of these arts. I'm definitely licensed in body work and energy work, and I do have some background in shiatsu, so I do have a working knowledge of how these systems work in terms of the actual body. So, but I am in no way a doctor of Chinese medicine, so don't take me being an expert. However, you can see that there's a creation or generative cycle with all of these elements, and then there is a control or destructive cycle, which is in the middle with the pentacle, which I think is really interesting. That's the control and destructive cycle. So the yin, there's a yang and there's a yin to each element, and there's an organ system. And for wood, It's related to spring, it's related to green, which is something you had brought up earlier about the green snake being just relevant in general to the imagery that was coming forward for you. But then you have the gallbladder, which is the yang energy, and then the liver, which is the yin energy of the wood element. And that's really, we're going from the yang energy, because the gallbladder stores and generates and sends the substance to the liver that breaks down the heavy stuff, right? That's what the gallbladder does. It creates bile and sends it to the liver to break things down. So there is an element of chemical reaction, but the liver is so much more subtle in what it does. It regulates the chi in your body. It is responsible for purifying your blood, which is where the chi is in your blood. So again, there is this other side of things for this year that is more about regulating the chi. And anger is a normal, healthy human emotion, right? We're going to get a lot of that when Mars goes direct at the end of February. Righteous anger, or a place to channel it into fire, which can be passion and joy, right? The excitement and thrill of life is fire.
Yes.
And that energy can be channeled into that, which is what you've been talking about with the fire element. And then from there, it generates into the earth energy, which is peaceful, right? It is peace of mind. It is it's contentment, right? It's being grounded. So you can see this cycle, how it can go. But you also see the elements that control or could be destructive in some ways. And the earth and wood, they definitely have this relationship. If the anger is out of balance, there is no peace of mind, right? There's no peacekeeper. There is just the anger that is, inflaming things. And then there's destruction, right? So, and in terms of your body and in your own chi, right? If your liver is not if you are over toxified, your liver is going to be overworked, and this is where people run into problems. And if they're holding on to anger that you're not expressing in a healthy way, or if it's overexpressed, I mean, these are all the ways that this energy can be out of balance this year. And it's really important that we take our at the next level detox very seriously, because it's pretty clear that everybody around me has been sick for the last month, and including myself, and I had to work very hard to get healthy in a reasonable amount of time with what's going around. And I feel like that I've already initiated my detox protocols months ago, right? So again, how important this year is to regulating our chi for our own health, right? And to stay healthy. And then from there, we can manifest, we can create, we can be of service, in a meaningful way. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, let's see if I can find it here. Oh, I had this graph. Oh, there it is. This graph just is, if you're more of a graph person and instead of a visual person, it goes through all the characteristics of all of these. Let me make sure this is sharing. It is. So this is the wood energy, the characteristics of the pioneer, right? Of competitive and liking a challenge. And you talked about having the eyes to see earlier, and that is the sense organ related to wood as well. And again, there's a subtlety that goes along with this, right? With the year of the snake, you have, maybe your peripheral vision maybe needs to be enhanced a little bit. Maybe it's about your inner eye or your third eye that is sensitive to what it is that you are seeing or interacting with. So I do like the pioneer energy. I feel like we are in brand new territory, certainly because Pluto's back in Aquarius now and hasn't been there since the American Revolution, basically. That's pretty powerful. But
Definitely.
Also, if you look at the way this is situated, and if you were to go back to the actual cycle itself, one of the things you'll notice is that the metal energy is a controlling factor for wood. And you can see that that's connected to not only lung and large intestine, which are huge detoxing organs as well, but it's the alchemist, just like you talked about. That alchemical, that mastery of dealing with contention within ourselves and turning it into something else creative and brand new is essential for this energy. Because if you don't, that's where we're going to, run into lots of problems in terms of the liver and detoxifying and people's anger really just turning back on ourselves and
Right.
making people worse off, to put it lightly. I mean, there's a lot of ways this can go. So that's my 5-element theory spiel, just to kind of bring in, more the health and wellness. It's all connected, of course, but if
Yes.
we're going to talk about Chinese astrology, they certainly don't separate the metaphysical from the physical. They're the same
Yes.
thing. And as you can see by just looking at this chart here. So,
Donda. And it's interesting because as I'm looking at the chart and it has spring as the season, in the collective reading that I did this morning, spring was a very focused time, a time that Spirit said would be important for us as a collective, especially us out here fighting the good fight, for a lack of a better term.
yes,
For a
absolutely.
lack of a better term. And it's interesting because with you talking about even like the full moon on, like it confirms a lot of what I was receiving this morning about how important this time is and what you were saying about the detox, which Spirit was talking about, where do you need to invest your energy? Where do you need to plant the seed? Because the seed you have to sow the seed in order for it to grow, correct? You have to nourish it. You have to take care of it. You have to, again, build that discipline, do what you need to do in order to grow, right? And so there is this really powerful season that we're moving into now. So there is this need to also trust yourself, trust the subtle signs, trust what feels good to your body, trust the little pings and intuitive hits that you get, because even though it may not necessarily make sense in the moment, know and trust that, you have this deeper connection, you have these intuitive hits for a reason. And so this is also going to be a period, I feel, of learning to trust yourself, really becoming stronger in your sovereignty, allowing yourself to really think bigger, allowing yourself to see things from a higher perspective. Everything that is going on right now is allowing us the opportunity to really anchor back into that sovereignty, to anchor back into our power. So the spring season, especially that coming up again, just feels so resonant in connection with the wood element. I can't hear you. Wait.
Okay, sorry.
Okay,
I was muting my mic, to not have background noise. Anyway, I was saying that, it's not every year that it's a wood element year. So to have it 2 years in a row and to have it both be like, they're basically the dragon and the serpent in Chinese astrology. They have the same energy. They're just, corresponding but opposite energies of yin and yang, of the, the reptilian energy, basically. I liked what you said about having, the seed has to be sown, right? And, it's very easy to stay kind of in the safe, you know what I mean, in the safe zone, or do the same thing over and over. And one thing I will say, even since this new moon, boy, there will be, and there will continue to be. I just felt like it was really intense as like the last breath of fire came out of the dragon at the balsamic moon. Lots of opportunities to test that inner resilience is very, if it hasn't happened already, it's going to, right? Especially at the quarter moons, and Mars and Chiron are going to be in a square to each other really soon. So those types of things are going to come up, and they are going to test yet, and they're going to be like, where does that, do I have a sense of inner security and resiliency when I'm pushed, when I'm challenged, right? When the drama attempts to pull you back in, especially with Mars and Cancer. I mean, it's so freaking dramatic. It's hard for us Aquarius people. I'm not gonna lie. If you're Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising person, Cancer energy is very difficult, and I say that as a Cancer rising person. It is my dharma which is exactly to your point about trusting your intuition and being able to listen to your own inner wisdom, because there is going to be so much noise, and there continues to be so much noise. Inner noise, outer noise, astral noise, other people in your life and their stuff, all the noise. It's going to come in and it's going to pull you out of your center. And so I am so grateful for so many things, even the most horrible things that have happened this year. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional.
No, safe
They
space.
have they have deepened my gratitude for God and the divine creator so much, because you just realize how close you are to spirit when you are forced to surrender and drop to your knees just by the sheer intensity of the experience, right? Whether it's a shedding, a purification, whether it's out of joy or sorrow, that's what the dragon really did. And it just deepened, for me, it deepened that relationship so much that I feel very not, I feel confident but not cocky about my
Yes.
capacity to navigate the next year, and really trusting, like, because I'm starting to see, so I mean, I read for other people all the time, as do you, so that part's easy. It's when it's the stuff for ourselves that we tend to second guess or not listen to. And I've just been realizing, sometimes with really difficult lessons, like, wow, okay, I was actually spot on with what I was feeling. Sometimes you can't articulate it. That's the skill that you have to learn, right?
Yes.
You don't have to learn to be intuitive as a human. What you learn is the language of God speaking
Yes.
to you, or the universe speaking to you. So that's going to be a big part of this year, I think, too, as you were saying, like learning to trust that, because it's so potent and so strong with the serpent that, again, we really aren't going to have any choice. It's going to be people's choice whether or not they're listening to that, their
Yes.
own inner wisdom and that guidance that's coming through. And it's not going to be obvious, it's not going to be obvious. I mean, in some cases it will be, I think. But some people, this is going to be the first time they've ever even really started really listening, because they kind of hit their wall with everything else. So it's going to be really, it's not going to be boring, that's for sure, but it's going to be subtle. And I think it's going to be very, I think, kind of getting down on the ground and just making your way through, or just like riding the rapids, it's just going to take you. So it's best to put your energy into that process instead of getting distracted by everything else that's not happening right here in front of you.
Right.
Whatever it is that you're trying to and you want, right? What brings you joy? Because that's where you have to channel your anger. And why you're
Yes.
regulating your chi to begin with, right? Is what's your joy? What's your passion? What
Absolutely.
brings God into your experience in relationship in that moment? So,
I know,
do
it's
you
a lot
want?
of
What do you
energy.
think? Should we move into some astrology? Are you feeling?
Um, so
How are you feeling?
because when I channel Sacred Sound, I don't know what we're gonna get into until I'm in it. We probably might want to do the astrology first.
That's what I'm feeling
Um,
too. Absolutely.
and
Alrighty.
I'm gonna close my
Yeah.
door real quick
Yeah.
and mute myself. But you can start.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
gonna just
uh,
I'm gonna bring up the chart and just start
okay.
getting people oriented back into the other part of our brain here, because wow, it's been way out somewhere else, which has been great. This conversation has been lovely so far. I really appreciate you so much. All right, share screen here. Where am I? There we go. All right, folks, we're going to bring up our chart here as is per usual. So, and I am going to check in with the live stream. I know it's a weird time for people, but, drop a comment in the comment section if you want to just say hi. But, and of course, if you're watching this on a different platform as a recording, then always feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below just to say hi. I know it's been a while. And certainly I'm going to be back here in 2 weeks to do the full moon forecast as well. So let me bring this up there we go. Hopefully. want to get this formatted correctly. Yes, okay. Because I don't want you guys to have to see all the banner ads everywhere. Okay, here we go. So I have the chart up here for the new moon in Aquarius. And what I'm going to do is what I usually do for these new and full moon forecasts is basically just go through the major themes, the major astrological themes for the first half of the lunar cycle or the 2 weeks ahead. So let me bring my notes up here just so I can, have... I took the time to prepare them. I might as well use them. Okay. So one of the things so we just had the new moon on Wednesday, which was the 29th. So new moon in Aquarius, these Chinese New Year's, Lunar New Year's are always around the new moon and to the full moon in Aquarius for the most part. So I use the Sabian symbol language, right, in my astrology. So I thought that would be really important to point out what the Sabian symbol is for 9 to 10 degrees Aquarius, because this new moon and this 2 weeks is the celebration of the Chinese New, or the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year of the Year of the Snake. And so these 2 weeks are really setting the tone, I think, for the year ahead, right? And so getting an idea of some intention, not only for this month with the new moon energy, but also how that's going to ripple out, kind of like the eclipses, right? They just ripple out, or your own solar return, for instance, right? It ripples out throughout the year. So much like the snake is going to be coiling, right? It's going to be coiling, and so it's coming back around to the same position, but also in a different position in space relative to where it started. And you see that in all kinds of imagery, the cosmic egg that you talked about earlier, right? And the other is the caduceus, right? The symbol of the healing arts in the Western world is the snakes wrapped around, the coiled around the staff, like the double helix of our DNA, right? And so there's that, and then of course the Kundalini spiraling as well. So that's all part of this like the new moon energy. So what really stuck out to me was the degree itself, and it's basically from the source of the Sabian symbols, right? Mark Edmund Jones and Elsie Wheeler. The phrase was a popularity that proves ephemeral, right? And the idea here is that, there's a difference between archetype and the actual person, or a celebrity that we know on the screen and the persona that they show us and who they are as an actual person. Much like Aquarius represents the entire social organism, for instance, and Leo represents the individual human heart and experience, right? They are linked, they are in contrast, but they are also inextricably linked with each other. You need one for the other, but there's a distinct difference between the individual human heart and the entire cardiovascular system of society, right? And so the sun is at its weakest in Aquarius. The sun is the ruling body of Leo. So that's something also to keep in mind at this time of year. That individual sense of creative expression is very weak when it has to do with the entire system, right? Because we are all impacted and impacting the collective consciousness all the time. So oftentimes what I have found in astrology is that when a planet or a body or a luminary is at its detriment or is in its fall position, it's not weak, it's not in its place of rulership or familiarity, it tends to overcompensate. And of course, something like the sun, which represents our ego in expression, it's very easy to do that. And so some people are going to double down on their archetypal nature, which this whole energy of popularity proves ephemeral. People that rely on, or parts of ourselves that rely on the positive reinforcement from our audience, from our community, from, anybody that we're surrounded by, sometimes we have to be tested, in order to prove to ourselves where our real worth actually stands, which is in the individual experience of the human heart, right? The passion and joy that is representing our connection with spirit. So if we're relying entirely, which a lot of Aquarius people sometimes do, relying on the feedback of the audience exclusively for our sense of self, this is going to be a difficult year, honestly, and definitely a difficult 2 weeks. And so we have to learn to deal not only with other people, but ourselves as we are, and not projecting onto others or ourselves as screens, right? It's good to be idealistic, right? And having that praise and that approbation, which is the key word of this degree, having that praise and that, a sense of notoriety and people going, well done, you're doing the right thing. That's really important. But if that's determining our sense of self-worth and driving and motivating us, it's not going to be an easy year for people. Does that make sense? I mean, do you feel anything there that's resonant in terms of what you've been receiving and what, your general read before I move on?
Well, honestly, yes, but it resonates with me for so many reasons because my son is in the 12th house. So for me, this is, it's very resonant, and I feel like it's one of those having to learn how to see the value within yourself. It's just everything that you are speaking is resonant. Because I feel as though it comes back to that energy of really returning to being the sovereign being that you are as part of the collective whole, and knowing that what you are called to do in this world, there's going to be souls that do not understand. But that cannot hinder you or prevent you from fully walking in your purpose. It's going to be so important that you are your biggest cheerleader and that you allow yourself to shift from being your harshest critic to your strongest ally. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be that energy that helps support you in propelling forward and gaining momentum upon your pathway. So I do feel like a lot of resonance here. All of this is resonating. It feels like this has been it's been a build up to this point, right? Of really realizing that the value is you. You are the value. Anything you add to you or how you express yourself is just, kind of like a cherry on top. But at the end of the day, you are the value. And so I definitely feel a resonance with this astrology. I feel like I live this I feel like I have lived this my entire life, coming to this point, right? Of knowing that the value is like me. I am enough. You are enough, right?
Right.
But yes, that's my little 2 cents on that. But yes, it is very much resonant.
No, I love that. We have to be our own, best cheerleader, our own strongest advocate, and because because I don't want to say the attacks, because I don't think it necessarily will have to come in that form necessarily, but the tests and the challenges, of that, what do we do when we have to really deal with ourselves as we are and where we are, as opposed to the ideal that we continue to project on ourselves or other people, right? Because they're going to mirror things back to us as well in this process. And so this is starting out this whole year of the snake, this particular energy. And again, this is, I think, part of regulating our chi. Go ahead.
So when you said that, I just remembered something, and I just want to share it because I feel like it's for somebody. There are going to be souls whose insecurities you trigger. And like you were saying, they're going to try to project it onto you. But I feel called to remind you that it is not your responsibility to take on someone else's projections. That's not your job. That's not your business. That's not your responsibility. But I feel like it is something many of us are going to be facing. So in what you're saying, like with the challenges that we are going to be facing, we have to remember not to take on those projections.
Oh, what a wonderful segue, actually, into what I was just about to talk about next. And I completely agree with you. Wow, I mean, I couldn't have said it better, honestly. That in terms of it's not your responsibility to take those things on. And boy, oh boy, like the empathic, you know, person. I mean, we all have empathy, obviously, as humans. But those who are Pleiadian starseeds, I'm just gonna get right to the point. That, and I've talked about this endlessly. I mean, of all of the starseed people, like in terms of the different traits and the frequency of galactic origins. The Pleiadians tend, as humans with Pleiadian energy, tend to be incredibly empathic and really struggle with their boundaries around it. And the reason I'm bringing this up astrologically is because as of today, so I'm going to move ahead here to the next day. As of today, or yesterday, I'm sorry, as of yesterday, Uranus, which is the ruling body of the sign of Aquarius. Uranus is stationed direct. And so all of those inner kind of like rapid shifts and, about faces that we've done internally, right? Things that have been unexpected, even a sense of like kind of rebelliousness when it comes to the Pleiadian energy, the fact that it's sitting right on the Pleiades and is stationing direct today, I think that just it goes to your point so much, because the tendency, we've had all this retrograde of Uranus to really kind of suss this out for ourselves, because now that Uranus is direct, the unexpected change is now happening in objective reality outside of us. You know what I mean? And I think that as long as especially the Pleiadian starseed people, and especially if you're a Pleiadian starseed person with strong Aquarius, which Aquarius people do tend to identify with the whole very easily because that's the Aquarian nature. So I do feel like that this is going to be tested big time in a way that you don't anticipate, in a way that is unexpected, that kind of shoots out of nowhere. But at the same time, it is going to be one of those things where you're just like riding the bull. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, whoa, I'm in total command of my field and my energy, and on all levels, physically, astrally, spiritually, energy, emotionally. But it will be kind of a rapid fire, like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's like riding the rapids, right? There's going to be some stuff that maybe we didn't anticipate that we're going to have to navigate. But I do get this sense that for those who have really been doing this work, like really reevaluating themselves, taking inventory of like really studying their boundaries and what it actually in real life feels like not to take on people's stuff like that. There will be challenges, but they're going to be like, I'm a boss in terms of like handling. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm not going to share the experience because it would take too long, but also too, it's there's people involved, and I want to protect their privacy. But that situation definitely just presented itself, and that's exactly what I went through. I was just like, because Uranus is sitting on my nadir, my IC, my root system, like my sense of actual emotional connection. And the core of who I am, like, was tested. And I totally owned it in a very, like, I did exactly what you said, right? I did not take on these projections as my own. I did not take responsibility for them. And I was very civil. I was very professional about it. But I also was very, very, it was like got this warrior energy of like, I know where my boundaries are, and I'm not taking responsibility for something that you chose to do. And now you are not very practiced in taking accountability for difficult things in your life. So just to, and Uranus stationing direct, I feel like is a big part of that kind of like, okay, now it's time to actually put it into practice. And again, not all souls are in the same place. And I think that's a really important thing to remember as well. In terms of all of this, is that everybody's in their own place, right? And this is where compassion and a sense of unconditional love and even forgiveness can come in, which again has a lot to do with all this Pisces energy, which I'm going to cover in a moment. I just wanted to see if you had anything that you would like to add to that before I move on to the Pisces energy.
Oh no, I'm good. I am very curious about this Piscean energy. Ever since I found out I was a Pisces rising, it's so.
Yes.
Look, let's hop into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we're still in this new moon period. We have the Aquarius new moon. We actually had Mercury and Pluto conjunct in 2 degrees Aquarius, so that just like adds to the intensity of like the mental power and energy to persuade ourselves, to persuade other people, but in a positive way, to really like get our point across, and to really, again, this is about developing inner security and a sense of resilience. We can't control things that happen outside of us, right? We really can't. This was a conversation I just had with my mom today, actually, strangely enough. And I was just like, when people really discover that they actually don't have any control over things outside of them at all, really, that's when the real power comes. And so Mercury and Pluto coming together like this, I think just kind of like allowed us consciously to be like, okay, I can do this, right? I can wrangle this power. I can take advantage of these opportunities where things happen that I have no control over, but they are a lesson. They are an opportunity. So we're kind of still sitting in this energy. But what's coming very soon here is that this whole Piscean connection here between the north node of the moon, Neptune, and Venus is about to all come together at these last degrees of Pisces. And so, of course, when Venus and Neptune normally just come together, just take out the signs for a minute. There's always more compassionate and spiritual bonding in relationships, right? And a lot of daydreaming and kind of indulging in things that are really creative or kind of escapist or relaxing. Just these are general mundane themes, and being drawn to things that are really beautiful. And you have this high level of compassion for people, especially like in your relationships, which is what Venus rules. So now you add the Pisces element to this conjunction, which Neptune is the ruling planet of Pisces, right? And so all of this energy of becoming more compassionate and spiritual, and the bond becoming more compassionate and spiritual, and really kind of indulging in this, like, is just, we're not even going to really be able to help it, right? It's almost, it's destined in some ways, because you have the north node of the moon, which is our soul's evolutionary trajectory right now, is also in the mix. And so you talked about surrender, and I was like, it's right here. It's at this juncture where Neptune and Venus come together, and then the north node, they're all conjunct. And this is happening pretty much right now, but is going to be exact, coming into the weekend. And I feel like that this is such a moment of this is that moment to really indulge in that, in whatever it is that you want to create from a very spiritual perspective. And maybe it does require you to just kind of relax, right? And just surrender to the flow of whatever is going on in your life. And that is going to be, because the other side of this, especially Venus and Neptune, is that this transit, especially with Pisces involved, because when you get to Pisces in the 12th house, it is, everything comes back around, right? It all returns back to source. And part of that is the karma of the situation having to be experienced, right? Because that's what Pisces in the 12th, it's the end of it all. And there's an experience that has to happen. And that's why you develop compassion and unconditional love and a sense of forgiveness, because you and I and everything else are all the same, right? And that's where you develop those capacities, is because you experience being one with all. this transit risks an incredible amount of disappointment with what has been not only cultivated but harvested, right? Especially if you have not accepted the harsh realities of something that has truly been negative for you. And this is going to be very difficult because it's also part of the soul's journey for this situation to come around and come to fruition for some people. And I see this a lot in people in my orbit, especially people that like in more of my professional life right now. I mean, and certainly my personal life, but the thing is, my personal life has given us such tragedy in the last year that we've had no choice. I mean, we've had a choice. Some of my family members, I guess, could have just like folded up and not done the work, but we've done it, and we're not in by any stretch like okay, but I do feel like that for the escapist crowd or the people that have been fighting against what spirit has been directing them towards this whole time through their challenges, this can be very disappointing because people are going to have a very hard time with what they have cultivated and harvested. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom about it. There's always a spectrum of experience with astrology and these transits, and this is very intense. I mean, to the point where people, again, there's no control that can be had over these situations. You surrender to the flow and allow the soul to pull you in the direction of your highest good here. And sometimes that means, surrendering to something that is really, a lot of health issues for people. I'm just going to be really honest. And that does happen with a lot of Neptune energy and Pisces. And when you're going to talk about Venus, she rules Taurus, the body, the state of your health, the state of your physicality, the state of your energy, right? And so part of that is that we're all going to be subjected to the nature of the waters, I guess you could say. And if people have been avoiding the things that have been bad for them, like avoiding dealing with what's going on, this is going to be very difficult. And so, I don't know, that just took a turn. Do you have any comments about that? I really like to know what's coming from you.
I have been bearing witness to it, and I have also been living it. It's interesting because I've noticed that for me, and this is just me personally, before these major transits happen, I notice that I will experience the transit before it actually takes place, right? It's weird, and I don't know why that is, but like...
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, prior to this, it's interesting because, and I'll share, I'm not in detail, but just for an example... didn't realize, like I was not consciously aware of just how much grief that I had not reconciled in regards to my mom's passing years ago, right? And situationally, things happened for me to be forced to look at this thing, to be forced to see what is there. Because there was an energy connected to it that was hindering me from fully... There was a lot of interference in my channel because of this unreconciled grief that I had not really dealt with. Because as an Aquarian, I am quite good at compartmentalizing, to say the least. And even though it was so long ago, it's like, okay, well, this is coming up now for a reason, right? And so everything that you're speaking, I can definitely recognize, because I just feel like we're given these opportunities, these experiences that happen in order to reveal to us what we do need to focus on, what we do need to release, what we do need to reconcile, what we do need to clear out, coming back to that energy of the detox. Like, and being that when you were talking about the body and all of these things, right? It's all very resonant. It may not make sense why you feel called to do certain things, and I see why this is coming up again. It may not make sense why you intuitively feel like, oh, maybe I should start this supplement. Oh, maybe I should start this regimen. Oh, maybe I should start this meditative practice. Oh, I've never really thought about taking a therapist, seeing a therapist before, but maybe that could be beneficial for me. Like, it may not all make sense. You may feel like you're okay, but there's going to be situations that arise that will allow you to see more clearly, okay, I understand why I felt called to do this. So again, trusting yourself, trusting also what's being revealed to you, like you said, and allowing yourself to be open to what this is trying to show you, teach you, heal within you, because where there is a lot, that may be coming up, a lot of challenges and things of this nature, it's polarity as well, right? Because there's a lot of beauty that is trying to make its way to you, but with all the interference of what has yet to be reconciled or focused upon, you cannot fully be receptive to what is for you. So all of this feels very resonant. Like I can see it, and I'm witnessing it around me, especially within my family. Like things that they have been going through. And I've also had to be in that space of, because as an Aquarius sun and a Pisces rising, let me tell you, like, I have had to work on not taking everybody else's stuff as my own. Because you have loved ones, you want to see them do better, you want better for them. But especially in this season that we are moving into, you are going to need all of your energy really to do what you need to do for you through this season of shedding and empowerment, because I feel like it's a balance here of both. And so, you can be a support, you can show love without taking on the burden. And I feel like that's so important, because, it's just, this is just all resonant. It makes sense. It's bringing even clarity to me. So thank you for this, because I can see it. I'm living it and being a witness to it all at once, So that's powerful.
Yeah, I'm also living it as well, and seeing it, it's it's just again, I'm so grateful for the map, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's exactly, we're in the right place. No, this makes total sense. This is all happening. And the thing to remember about this Piscean energy, especially with this, is that the Sabian symbol energy here, the Cliff Notes version is essentially like, this is a fertile garden that's in full bloom, and it's tailored to everybody's individual needs, right? And not what your ego wants or you think you should have, but really what spirit has in store for each individual person, for them to, especially for their soul's evolution at this time, which is what the north node of the moon represents. And the children being born right now as these transits are happening, they're going to be, wow, just, I don't even know what to say
Next level.
yeah, especially right now, but even within the next year or so. I mean, and I will say from a purely intuitive position, there's going to continue to be a lot of exits. There just is. And I don't want that to be the case, but I've gotten too many direct, like, visions, right? And I don't take every dream or every image that comes through intuitively at face value. I've learned that there has to be some discernment in those spaces, especially as you're learning to fly it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of intrusion. There's a lot of manipulation, even at that level. So I've learned, that not every dream I have is like, that's going to happen, right? A lot of it is just, playing off of your fears in order to get you to put that energy out into the world. So that's a different conversation. However, I do, I have learned to, we've talked about this, I'm pretty sure, like the quality of certain dreams and what what it feels like, what it looks like, what I feel like when they're happening, to understand like, okay, there's actually information coming to me that I'm meant to have, that's for the betterment of myself and humanity, right? And unfortunately, there will be more exits, and it's going to be very shocking for people, and it's going to be part of this Piscean energy that's going to be happening with the North Node in Pisces, but then also Neptune finishing its transit of its home territory. There's just going to be a lot of returns back to source. But in that, there's also going to be a lot of them coming right back, right? Especially when we're just like, why the hell did I decide to come here, right? And it's like, when you realize that every soul has chosen to come back every single time for the sake of their soul's evolution, the capacity to be a victim to anything is so minimal at that point. It forces accountability when you start to realize that's exactly what's happening. So it's really easy to feel like a victim over every little thing when you don't realize, as a soul, even as a starseed, it's really hard. You're like, oh my God, why did I sign up for this mission? They're going to come right back. I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of babies born in the next year to 2 years, because there's going to be so many souls leaving because their vessel is not able to make the transition to the ascension, and they want to be part of it. And the kids that are going to be born, they definitely are going to be primed for,
I feel that,
this transition, if not already transitioned when they come through. So that's just a caveat. I don't even know where that came from. But you also talked about being worthy, being enough, and Venus coming into Aries this week is going to be a big part of that, I think, right? Because Venus represents also worth and value, and especially our own self-worth and value, and the value and worth of whatever is meaningful to us in a very visceral and tangible way. So yes, income and material possessions and our safety and our security, but also relationships, right? The projects that matter to us. Venus coming into Aries, I feel like, is going to start establishing that true self-worth for each of us individually. And I really like that energy. But we got some unfinished business here to tie up with Venus at the end of Pisces. And it's at the most fundamental spiritual level with Neptune. I think it's just going to completely dissolve it. It's going to be a solvent down to the essence of who we all are, which is, part of spirit. That's it, and that changes your perspective on everything when you come to that level. So that's coming, in the next day or so. So be ready for that. And then beyond that, though, we start to get into the Jupiter stationing direct on the 4th. On the 5th is when we have our quarter moon, and that's when Neptune and the North Node come together. And there's some smaller transits, between now and the 9th that, you could get into. But I would say that Jupiter stationing direct on the 4th is another... Things are going to start moving quickly. Like they already are, right? We already know that they are. That's a no-brainer, right? Even for people who aren't paying attention to anything, can feel that things are moving, right? And so Jupiter stationing direct, I want to point out the Sabian symbol, because it's time to leave the past behind. And this fits in so perfectly well with the energy of the shedding of the skin and the snake energy and the brand new raw skin. But that requires that we leave that skin behind. And I think that's really important to just kind of be aware of and to give some attention to, especially because it's going to be part of this Jupiter stationing direct, right? We're going to start expanding on new ideas, and there's that pioneering energy coming back around with Jupiter in Gemini. So granted, Jupiter in Gemini is at its weakest, and so Jupiter's already full of hot air and bombastic, and it's all kind of like big ideas and big picture, but not necessarily details. But in Gemini, it is details. And I think we've had this retrograde time has been people I think have been very reconsiderate. They've been reviewing. They have been more conservative about what we think we know, right? Maybe reconsidering the ideas that we've attached a lot of meaning and purpose to, perhaps, and or positions, and really taking the time to consider the opposition before starting to come to conclusions. Now, Jupiter, of all the planets, I mean, Mars, especially as a retrograde, definitely overcompensates, because that is the antithesis of Mars. To go backwards is just like, so the retrograde back into Cancer has been awful. I think it's been awful. I have not enjoyed it at all, but at least I knew it was coming. So just being over for protective, almost for, to the point, it's like pulling yourself into your turtle shell for absolutely like almost no reason. Like, there's only so much we can do of this. So, but Jupiter coming direct now out of its retrograde, there's the potential for overcompensation, which I think was much more the first time it was direct. Now that it's gone through the retrograde, I think that we're prepared, hopefully, to expand on a brand new set of ideas and concepts, or what we want to give our mental energy to, right? And we have to liquidate our past, like, completely, right? We have to liberate ourselves from the ghosts of our past. And this direct energy of Jupiter is going to really give us kind of the fortitude to do that, of just like, okay, I can expand into the big picture, but that means leaving behind the ghosts of my own past. And I feel like this is going to start very soon, right? You can already start to feel it building. So that's a big one to look out for. And that's from the 4th to the 5th, right? And then the 5th is the quarter moon. Neptune and the North Node connect on the 5th. And then the 9th is another really big day. So before I move on, do you have anything, Kiana, that you want to add before I move on to the next time frame?
Oh no, you're totally good. You are good.
Okay. Yep, awesome. So it's really next weekend that we start to see another kind of like there will be challenging things next week, right? You can see in conjuncts with Mars and the Sun and Mercury, right? So definitely some inner like imbalances that we're going to have to figure out on our own, right? Things will come, wild card energy will kind of force us to find balance where there really isn't any. So, but the good thing about this time period of next weekend is that we're going to have a Mercury Cazimi with the Sun, right? The Sun and Mercury will be conjunct in Aquarius, right? So even though the Sun is at its detriment in Aquarius, Mercury's not unhappy here, right? It's an air sign. Mercury rules an air sign. So I feel like this Cazimi is going to be kind of really important in terms of like, just kind of like a light bulb going off, or like being able to like mentally face situations. Again, there comes that resiliency energy with this Cazimi, and I think it'll be kind of like a lift, right? And like a mental lift of just like, even if I'm feeling disappointed, even if I'm feeling disillusioned, even if I'm frustrated, like, there is a means to mentally pull myself out of that and really project some courage under this adversity. So that's going to be happening next weekend. And at the same time, Mars and Saturn are in this trine. So you see the blue lines. Those are usually the favorable, harmonious aspects in astrology. And Mars and Saturn. Now, this has happened once before because Mars was past this point already once, and now it's retrograde and going back. And so I just want to read a little bit of just some basics about Mars in a trine. So a trine is that 120-degree angle, right? The angle of an equilateral triangle. So it's very stable, and it's a water trine. So it's also very emotional and feeling based. It gives you a lot of strength and ambition and perseverance to take on the hardest of tasks and complete them on time and on budget and with perfection, right? So finding efficient ways to get things done. You get the patience and self-discipline from the Saturn energy. And it's very much like the master instructing the disciple at this point. And there's a sanctioning, there's a personal sanctioning to this that I'm not sure exactly what it's going to look like, but it feels just like, it feels sanctified, whatever this is, right? And it's a really good transit to follow through in something you are passionate about. So remember that Mars is retrograde. So there's not going to be as much outward projection energy as maybe we would want, but we're going to get there because Mars is going to station direct at the end on the 23rd of February and is going to come back into another trine with Saturn at the end of February. So, be patient. It's coming, right? There will be this opportunity to actually project ourselves into that which we are passionate about. This, I think, is going to give us an opportunity to just feel that ambition and that strength and to really kind of anchor down a little bit into, the infrastructure that's going to help us, fulfill or follow through on something. And so, Mars also, especially in the sign of Cancer, is Mars also rules Scorpio. So there is this sense of connection and relationship energy of the divine masculine that Mars represents in terms of relationship. And in Cancer, you really get this sense of the family, right? And what's important to you at that, who's your clan, who's your family, who are you committed to, right? And so there's a lot of loyalty with something like this because of course, Saturn is very much about the responsibility of the social welfare, whether it's your family, whether it's your community, a nation, whatever. The idea here is that there's devotion and loyalty that really gets an kind of a boost here with this type of transit. And there's a certain dedication and dependability that actually becomes kind of attractive here. So this is a great time to legitimize or consecrate a partnership. And between that and this Mercury Cazimi, I think that, wow, there can be some real commitments made here. And a reestablishing of those relationships that are already strong and committed, that are going to be the aspects that allow us to face adversity, right? Our resilience comes from our strength, amongst each other and in our relationships. So, and also things like practical results in business and finance, real estate. This is a good transit to really consider, I think, maybe not act on it yet, but maybe get your ducks in a row about an investment you want to make, right? An investment in your future, an investment in a relationship, something that is long-standing and committed. And it could be, it could be financial. With the water energy, though, it feels much more emotional commitments, but it could be very much like real estate if we're going to talk about Mars and Cancer, right? Again, home, the place where you feel at home. So this is a good time to lay those foundations, I think, or at least to consider those foundations. Maybe not act on them yet, but to establish within ourselves, those situations, relationships, those partnerships that really are stable and that we want to commit to. I think that's next weekend is going to be really good, I think. And then right after that, of course, Mercury is going to square Uranus. So, immediately we're going to have all this change, right? And so we get this day of hey, we can really do this. And then right after that, Mercury squares Uranus and, all of a sudden, the tempo of life speeds up and there's a very unsettling feeling that we have to catch up on something. And so could be a lot of mishaps. There could be, misunderstandings, right, with Mercury square to Uranus, because you have Mercury, which is the individual consciousness, Uranus, which is the collective consciousness. They're in a square, right? There are cross purposes here. But this also gives you an increased ability to view things from a different perspective. So this is also taking advantage of breakthroughs and original ideas that you would have never considered had this contention not presented itself with this particular upset, right? And it could be upsetting news, right? An interaction that is completely different than what you're used to, that kind of throws everything off. That could very easily happen. I would say in this situation, avoid making a spontaneous change, right? Agreeing to things on the spur of the moment. It's one thing if you've been planning something and this change might change the dynamic of those plans, to be open to those things, but I would really recommend that you don't just go with something unless you are very clear with your discernment and your intuitive channel, and you know when spirit is talking to you and they're like, no, don't think, just do. I don't get that sense because the sun is going to square Uranus right after this. And in fact, this is the perfect like capstone here because the full moon itself is going to be right after this and in a T-square with Uranus. And so whatever's coming, whatever is on the docket here in terms of this full moon, number one is going to be highlighting our capacity to basically walk through the desert with everything we need, right? It's like a camel going through the desert. But this T-square with Uranus at the full moon, I feel like it's going to really test that. Right, it's going to really test that. We're not gonna see it coming, and if we are, there's nothing we can do to stop it. There's going to be elements about it that we can't control or even anticipate. And again, it's going to go back to that Pleiadian warrior energy of like, all you have control over is yourself. So, are you going to master yourself, or are you going to, just let everything around you dictate all of your decisions, your behaviors, your thought processes? So. And it does feel like that you can't transmute your emotional energies until you have got everything you need within yourself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people where they get lost is they want to skip to that point. How do I transmute my emotional energies and, bypass all of my passions and come to wisdom? Well, you have to do that by being able to be a reservoir of your own, of your own energies to begin with, right? And that's its own journey, right? Just like the camel across the desert. So that takes us to the full moon on the 12th. So that's what I got for the astrology, Kiana. Do you have anything that you like to add or anything that you would like to respond to when it comes to that? And of course, I'm going to be back at the full moon to do my normal full moon forecast. So we'll certainly have more to talk about when we get to this. I have no idea what life will be like at this point. But I'll tell you what, there's probably going to be some dry, arid territory we're really going to have to move across throughout the rest of February. So, anyway.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I'm feeling, like intuitively in confirmation from Spirit, I felt called to pull from my Sirius Starseed Tarot. And it's really interesting because it is bringing forth this confirmation of what you have been feeling called to do, whatever it is, this time period before the next new moon is prime time to begin planting the seeds. When you said investment, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be financial, but if there's like an investment that you are feeling called to, invest in yourself, invest in more education and investing more time and energy in your practices. Whatever it is that you are feeling called to invest in definitely relates to the energy that I was feeling. And it's like now is prime time to begin sowing that seed, because what I was receiving prior to this transmission is that after the next new moon, which we haven't even gotten to the full moon yet, but the next new moon, that period from that new moon to like into spring is when you're really going to begin to see the growth of the seeds that you have planted. And for those who feel this resonance, right, who feel this call, those of us who are meant to serve in some way, those of us who are meant to inspire in some way, whatever that way look like, whatever it looks like for you, there is like what you are sowing is not simply a seed. Spirit is saying that this seed is crystalline. This seed is part of your mission. This is what you came here to do. And it's literally like this energy, for lack of a better term, it's time to put up or show up or put up or I can't even think of the words right now. Oko Sitriashana. Put up or shut up, I believe.
Yes, there it is.
There we go. We're going to get there. Guides are a little sassy, but we're gonna flow with it because we are like, this is a season of empowerment. And so, like, with everything that you were saying, Denise, like, this is a time where we have to source the power from within. And it's just going to be so important. And it's also important for you to know, I feel like this is a message of reassurance that needs to be said here, is that this crystalline seed that you are planting that is in divine alignment with your calling is also divinely protected. It is your choice on whether you want to sow the seed or not, but should you choose to do so, know that despite all of the things that are happening around you, the chaos, the stirrings, the frustrations, the anger, the fear, all of the things, beyond all of that, this is crystalline. And when you step into your purpose, know that this is divinely protected. This is divinely held. This is crystalline. There is nothing that is going to stand between you and walking this pathway if you so choose, because this is all a free will choice. You always have a choice on whether or not you want to anchor into this, right? But I strongly feel that those that feel called to this message for that reason, that you are here to anchor in this beautiful gift in whatever way that it manifests through you. This seed that has already been planted within you. You came into this lifetime with this seed. Now it is time for you to begin to breathe life into it through intention and trust so that it can be made material. And, again, it is a choice. It is all a choice, but I have also the Merkaba wanting to come up here. There is protection here. It's not to say that you're not going to feel all the feelings. It's not going to say that you're not going to go through challenging times. It's a reassurance of knowing that you will make it through that and rise above it. So that's what I have to add, in regards to the astrology, and it just feels extremely resonant. It just feels extremely resonant.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that that's the case. I mean, what else? Why would I be doing any of this? I from a personal standpoint, based on some of the things that you and I have personally talked about this year, I really appreciate that message in particular. And I think a lot of people can, I suspect I'm not the only one, because there's been a lot of fear about that particular pathway, and very real fear, and being able to parse out what is something that you have to really be, do your research, do your homework, understand and calculate your risks about whatever it is you're doing. That's really important. But and being able to feel the difference between the projection or the fear from my own mind, right?
Yes.
The voices from outside that immediately go to the worst case scenario about things, and want to project that onto you because they don't trust themselves about anything, or because they haven't learned, right? I mean, this is a lot of learned helplessness. Culturally, that we're dealing with, and so that's been very difficult to just stand in witness to with other people, and trying to be compassionate, not trying, but working towards compassion towards those who are at a different level, and knowing that other people are they're so much more practiced at it than I am. So, but there has been a lot of fear, and you have to be able to pull, your reassurance has to come from so deep within you that nothing can shake it at all. And it's not unrealistic. You're not being delusional. You're not lying to yourself. You are trusting that the deepest intuition, right? You're trusting the language of spirit talking to you that is saying exactly what you said, right? That this is protected. This is when you decide to step into alignment with your highest self, with your soul's trajectory, it can't be anything but protected. Yes. Right? It might not look the way that you think it should, right? And your plans for it might not be what actually happens, but that's less relevant to the situation than really trusting. And I just appreciate that message so much, because even just having you share that insight, it was enough. I just felt kind of this extra sigh of like, I know that it's okay, right? I know, I do, deep down, but like, I'm just a human too. We all are.
Exactly.
And you're so influenced, especially the Aquarius people and the Pisces people, right? Like, we are just so, especially those signs, just so like just plugged into the collective. And so you know, we gotta be like Professor X when he puts on Cerebro, right? Like, you can't be completely, you have to be a master at your psychic channels, your ability to tap into those places without like identifying and taking it on. So we still have a lot of work to do, but now it's like student teaching, right?
It literally is like learning as you go, like like learning through action, learning through the actual practice at this point, you know.
Yeah, so that's all I got in terms of my offerings today. You're the snake. I don't think I have anything else necessarily to offer. Nothing that you out there or me or Kiana can't research ourselves, you know. You want to find out what your Chinese animal is. It's very easy to find based on your birth year. You can find, I will say that my Chinese astrology from last year, like a really mundane and basic read that I got on a free website about so I'm a horse. That's my Chinese astrology animal. It was very accurate for last year, for me and my spouse. And so when I read, you know, what our projections are for this year, I'm so much more in tune. I was like, oh yeah, I already see that. It's already, I already see the template for that is already unfolded. And I'm like, wow. Oh, I guess I already picked up on that too. And that's what you were saying. You're like, I'm living the astrology before it's even happening. And I will say, the other people have definitely reported that to me, just over, you know, subscribers and clients that I work with, and in different ways, dream states, their intuitive messaging system, like, just, you know, there's a lot of us who pre-wave a lot of stuff. And I don't know if it's because we're just more sensitive to the frequencies and the geometry of things, or if there's kind of like this, you know, everybody kind of picks up on things. Actually, I had someone say to me, and they might be in the chat actually. Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know I could look at the chat.
Oh, that's okay. That's on it's on the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see it.
No, there is a chat actually. If you should be able to go to a chat function on your side of things and go to the live stream.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Hi. Yeah, so I know I'm a little late.
One time E had said, oh yeah, the chat is great right now. But E. Perry at one point had said to me, you know, I really feel like that everybody kind of goes through their, you know, it's like we're all kind of supporting each other through our different ascension processes. And so some people are going through things at one time and other people are going through similar things, but at a different time. And so we're all kind of going through different stages at different times in order to kind of share the burden. Does that make sense? And I think that is really a lot. I really appreciate that about a lot of the communities that I've either been part of or have been cultivating. So yeah, people are feeling it. Absolutely. Hello. Hello. I appreciate you as well. Absolutely.
Yes.
I miss doing the lives. Kiana, maybe we should do this more often.
This is so much fun. Yeah. I'm here for it.
What do you guys think? You know, in the chat or in this comment section, if you're watching the replay, you think we should do this regularly? Because I'm having a blast.
I know. I was like, and I think we still have time too for the sacred sound if you still want to.
Yeah. No, you take it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ati sarai soto sitria shamaye tromba kaithras. So, I personally use sounds, light language, toning to anchor in healing, high frequency energies, to support activation. Any intention that you could possibly think of, I use sacred sound to help support. And so today, especially coming into this, I didn't really have an expectation on what was going to come through from Spirit. But I'm really feeling called, especially with everything that we talked about, is that there's a sacred sound that desires to come through to really help support balance and peace of mind and heart. So we're going to be focusing on clearing the upper chakras especially, and grounding into our root so that we can come into a place of safety and security within. And so in this process, like, you don't have to receive anything that you do not want to receive. It's, again, all free will choice. I'm just going to hold the frequency, and literally all you have to do, if you're able to close your eyes, if you're not, don't worry about it, but just really just center, focus on the breath. Going to take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And we're just going to receive in this moment divine light, establishing crystalline grid of protection around every soul who receives this transmission. Etom bakayithria sa tri sakayetrom basi. Etom bakayethro si triashakanda yetrom. Etianga yetungo si triakanda siye. Otom baha tharise. Etombo tungo si trianda yitrom. Ita ye kongoria shando. Akayetron baka yishongo tongo taye. Ondo sitriasha. Deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. As we center in the Gayetrum Bakayisa Tayitrum Bakaye. We know that we are rooted in divine Mama Gaia, beautiful Mother Earth. Know that she holds us in this moment. And know that you are always divinely held. We speak and clear any and all interference that may try to come in between you and your divine purpose. Know and trust that with every step that you take, that you are always divinely guided and protected. We want you to know that you are being prepared for divine transformation. Know that you are going to be awakening to aspects of yourself that you never even knew were there. So open yourself to receive divine love, Okondo sitri ashana e, an acceptance of self like you never have before. Akaitri ashanda etungu tusi atiata yetungu. And know and remember that in all things and in all ways you have and always will be enough. Okundo sitri ashanda yetrumba yetrumbayem. Never feel as though your contribution to the collective Okundo sitri ashana yetrumba etiana does not make a difference. Okundo sitri ashana yetruma, because this is not truth. Okundo sitri ashana e. Every step you take, akayitruma, every action that you make, oto sitri ashana maye, that is in divine alignment with your truth and in your purpose, Okondo sitri ashanaye. No matter how small it may feel, Oto sonti shianka yetroma, makes a ripple, Oto sitri ashana etroma, of infinite possibility. Okondo sitri ashana yetroma etiana. So we urge you to move in courage and trust. Okondo sitri ashana etroma etiashaka naye, and know that you are always divinely held, that you are never alone in this journey. Otositri ashana etroma, and know that an adventure of a lifetime is only just beginning. Otositi ashata etroma. We see you, we hear you, we are with you. Divine love overflowing always. Thank you, Spirit.
And thank you, Kiana. Wow.
Of course. Of course.
Woo! Look at, I mean, my hair is reflective of just having.
I have a case of the giggles a little bit.
I love this part. The spirit intoxication.
Yes.
I actually did feel it quite a bit in the upper heart, like the thymus chakra.
Yes.
And the throat chakra was really just like, I was like, oh. And then I was really starting to like fit, like there was just a ball that was forming, and it was just like, just up, I was just kind of like, I was just traveling up and down. I was just moving it around. Wow. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm so
powerful.
glad.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. All of you are so welcome.
Yeah.
I can see some of the messages.
Yeah. Kiana, will you, can't believe I bumped into you guys tonight. That was a great meditation. Healing. You two are awesome. Well, thank you, Rich. And
Thank you.
Thank you to E, of course.
Yes.
Thank you. E is one of my clients, but also one of my good friends.
Aww.
Out actually on the West Coast. So you guys are way closer to each other.
Oh.
I am. So we can talk more about that later.
Yeah.
Kiana, how can people find you in terms of your business and your practice?
I am all over the place, so you can find me at cosmicpriestess.com. That's cosmic with a K, priestess.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at thecosmicpriestess.com, cosmic with a K. I'm on all three of those. Mm-hmm. I think I'm actually a bit more active on TikTok than I am on Facebook, but IG, TikTok are the main two.
Cool. I will, what I'll do is I'm going to add that information into either the description box for this video, regardless of where it's at, or a pinned comment or something. That way people can, are you offering services right now?
I am. My services are in transformation right now, but I haven't changed anything on the website, so it's still like all of my services from last year are still available for booking. So that's still a thing, but there is a lot that's changing. I'm bringing sacred sound more into my offerings, so it's going to shift a little bit, but it's still available. All sorts of things. And I forgot I'm on YouTube too, because I'm not as active as I want to be.
Yeah, no, I haven't
you
seen
know?
anything from you in a while in that space either. But you're right. I forgot actually. I was like, oh yeah, you
Yeah.
folks, do yourself a favor if you have not gotten a reading, a channeling, or energy work from Kiana. She is my go-to person.
Thank you.
Other than my
Look, you're my go-to for all the astrology, and have been for
if you're on this
years.
channel, you already know how to find me. So I am making some changes to my Subscribe Star offerings. I've really streamlined some things. So if you do want to support my work, because I do the new and full moon forecasts, and of course I have a ton of services for astrology readings, intuitive readings, and then energy work on my website. But I am shifting some things around so that people can support me through Subscribe Star. And the tier system is going to change, and like my offerings are going to change a little bit. I've really had to scale back in terms of the subscriber content, mostly because I have a day job, and which is very demanding because I am in the healing arts as well. So, and I love that work, and that has been, that's where I've been the last couple of years. I've been called to go back to being on the ground with people and using those tools with folks. So splitting my time between making subscriber only content, which I really loved cultivating that community. But I really had to make a choice because there's only so many hours in a day. And I do feel that change coming. I do feel like things are going to transition into a whole different realm that I can't even really conceptualize right now. So, but if you're not on my email list, I would recommend getting on my email list through my website, because that's where I usually send out, the links to the videos. If I'm offering any special reading, special or discounts or anything like that, is because I'm not really active on social media. Like I do have social media for Catalyst Energies, but it's just not my thing. So I'd rather put my energy into the content itself on the video platform. So, or in personal readings, right? So if you're interested in those things, all my stuff's in the description box as well. So you can find both of us if you need us as well. So Kiana, any final thoughts or offerings?
I'm just happy to be here. This was amazing. I enjoyed this. I feel lighter coming out of it. Like, because coming in, I was like, there's a lot. This is a lot. This is a lot of energy.
I wish I could get out of this, because there was so much that I felt like I was going to kind of blow a fuse a little bit. And I was like, I have to kind of crawl back into my obscurity and not, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know. But I also knew deep down, and I was just like, my higher self was just like, stop that,
Yes.
Just go hang out with Kiana.
I know, that's
all it is,
same
really.
here. That's how I had to view it. I was like, look, we're just gonna let it flow.
Yeah, and this is not the first time we've done this, so it's not. And I think it went really smoothly from utilizing the platform and figuring out, because this is new software to me, and getting on live and just everything. I was just like, oh, that was really easy. But it's because, honestly, Kiana, it's because we've worked over the years to create the infrastructure for these offerings, right? Like I have a studio, you have your studio in your office, right? I have all the things, right? The equipment and the lighting, and so I could just sit down and just go, oh, okay.
Yes, exactly. We've grown.
I think that's a good thing to consider for everybody. It's like it's so important to have that infrastructure in place in order to be able to do whatever it is that you're doing or creating, right? And
absolutely.
If you haven't really initiated that practice, that discipline, that change in routine, whatever it is, it can be so simple. It could be as simple as, I'm going to endeavor, and this is what, New Year's resolutions are supposed to be for, which are just so cliche at this point.
Right.
But the idea here is that, you can't do it all at once. So just pick the thing that is going to have, the thing that you want to implement in your life. Like, for instance, I'm going to make sure that the first thing I do in the morning is when I get up is I'm going to have warm water with lemon. Right?
Yeah.
Instead of coffee. I'm going to make sure and sit down and meditate or pray for 5 minutes before I get on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And that's how I had to, because I'm a Sag person. It's way out here for me. I don't have a lick of Gemini in my natal chart. Not a single thing. So for me to like bring it back, scale it back to the one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
That itself was a practice. But now that I've seen, like, okay, just one thing at a time, implement it.
Exactly.
Right? And then then it's something you're not gonna ever not want to do, right?
Right.
I can't imagine getting up and not doing these things now because my life has been impacted so positively by those changes that then you don't have to force yourself to do it. But sometimes at the beginning you do have to have some discipline. And we're in brand new territory, people. Like, the world is our oyster or our cosmic egg, right?
Yes.
But it's surrounded by this potency that is incredibly healing and generative and powerful. But we have to be master alchemists. We really
Sow that
do.
Seed.
Absolutely. And it needs to be tended and watered and nurtured and cared for, but also, eventually get to step back and let it do its thing. Which
Absolutely.
Is, but that's because we put the time into cultivating it to begin with.
Yes.
So, well, Kiana, it has been an absolute pleasure.
It has. It's been a gift.
You so much. I don't even know what sparked me to even. It was just that
time.
moment. I was just like, it's time.
Yeah.
Kiana I need to do this live together. So
yes.
I'm really grateful that it came together and you were so open to it. So
absolutely. Yeah. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. And I have a feeling some other people out there might find themselves agreeing with us. Oh, man, I really waited for a stream like this. So, I don't know. I hope it gets some traction. It's been a while since I've been on the YouTubes. But, whoever needs to be, it's for who it's meant for. And I'm grateful for that. So, all right, friends.
All right.
I'm going to sign off from this live stream.
Thank you all so much.
In full moon glory in 2 weeks. Kiana, we'll see you on TikTok. I'm very much hoping.
A lot.
I don't use TikTok, but I should get on there just so I can
I post regularly on TikTok.
Okay.
Okay.
I know I've been resisting it, but maybe I should. Maybe that's, the new thing that I'll get into. I feel like I'm going to get sucked into a black hole, though. On TikTok. I'll just subscribe to you.
Look, you might. Just go with the flow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm signing out of here.
All right.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for being here. We truly appreciate all of you so very much. And we'll see you next time. Take care. All right.